Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Out of all the old Pokemon spin-off titles, I think this one has fared the best. Most of these titles have been long forgotten. Things like Pokemon Ranger, Pokemon Conquest, Pokemon Dash. You remember Pokemon Dash? I fucking wish I didn't. Whenever Game Freak isn't making Nintendo enough billions of dollars, they're liable to call up some other developer to do it for them. Now, they've never let anyone else make the main series titles, but the stuff they used to come up with was pretty great. Except when it wasn't. I used to play Pokemon Ranger all the time, and at one point I even thought about playing Pokemon Pinball. But the one series I've always loved best is Mystery Dungeon. This game was developed by Chunsoft, later Spike Chunsoft, who are still responsible for the new remake of the original game. I don't know about you, but I was excited to see this game get announced. I thought this series was dead and buried, just like the others. The last game in the series was Super Mystery Dungeon, and that was released almost 5 years ago. And many people considered that to be a franchise wrap-up, but here we are. And I want to talk about this series because it is underrated, and honestly, it can really compete with some of the main series titles in terms of quality. There really aren't any other Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games that are willing to show you this. Or this. Or especially this. Papa Game Freak doesn't usually let anyone show emotion, ever. It's moments like these and the build up to them, or lack thereof, that makes this series for me. I think it's why Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky works so well. Just so you know, this is going to be entirely about Explorers of Sky, as it's my favorite, and in the opinion of pretty much everyone else on the Mystery Dungeon subreddit, it's also their favorite. Unlike main series titles, this game has a little something we like to call plot. The story of this game does begin by following the same general formula that the previous title had, but it differs by offering a more complex story with a lot more emotional weight to it. Characters like the partner have actual arcs, simple as they may be, and there are twists in the story, although you can see them coming from a mile away. But they do still work. The villains are believable, and they even have their own arcs. Dusknoir and Drowsy even get to be redeemed. By the way, spoilers, I guess? Nah, fuck it. This game's 11 years old. Overall, Mystery Dungeon is alright gameplay-wise, but it does have an above-average plot. I can understand why some reviewers weren't impressed, but hey, this game has heart. It's a story that contains scenes I'm honestly surprised they targeted towards a younger audience. This game isn't really about having fun with your Pokemon as you go defeat the badges, take on the gym leaders. No, this is somehow a bittersweet tale of self-sacrifice and grief, but with Pokemon. I read on the Mystery Dungeon subreddit one time that the reason you couldn't choose your own Pokemon in the games was because your favorite Pokemon wasn't supposed to actually be you. It was supposed to be your partner. I don't know who posted it, so sorry for using it here, but I really like it. I think it's a good interpretation of the game design, and it fits really well with my own ideas about this game. The main characters all revolve around serving others, even at the cost of their own safety, or in some cases existence. The partner is scared of joining the Wigglytuff Guild until you go with them. But throughout your journey, they become willing to put themselves at risk in order to help the other people around you. Grovyle, who later joins the party after being wrongly identified as the antagonist, quite literally sacrifices himself in order to ensure that you and your partner make it to the top of Temporal Tower, and before he is forced back into the distorted future by Dusknoir, he imparts the knowledge that by changing the future, all of the Pokemon from the future will cease to exist, you included. Even with this knowledge, the player character ends the main story by literally dying in order to save the world, but it doesn't feel as grandiose as that. You aren't willing to die for something as abstract as saving the world. You're willing to die because it ensures the safety of your partner and all the other friends you've met. You defeat Dialga and even have to attempt to comfort your partner as they watch you disappear from reality. But it's that scene just before the end credits start to roll where your partner, your favorite Pokemon, walks back to the beach where the game began and sees the Krabby blowing bubbles as the sun slowly sets in the distance and finally breaks down in grief. That's something games didn't really show, or at least I didn't see many games at the time with it, and this was targeted to a younger audience. Mystery Dungeon finished off its main story by letting the player experience grief. It's one of the few times I really remember any kind of media doing that for me. That's why this game stuck with me all these years, because somehow Pokemon was able to better handle tragedy and death than most other mediums could. I still play Pokemon Mystery Dungeon off and on. I'm definitely going to be playing this remake. I hope it leads to a remake of Explorers, but I also want it to lead to new entries in the series. Mystery Dungeon has a second shot at life on the Nintendo Switch, and I really can't wait to see what comes of it.